Okay, let's start to unpack this together. It's a pretty challenging idea. What if your whole experience of reality, your sense of self even, isn't really a mirror, but more like a grand, beautifully orchestrated, controlled hallucination? Today we're doing a deep dive into Anil Seth's book, Being You, A New Science of Consciousness. And his big idea, reality isn't just seen, it's actively built by our brains for survival.
That's right. And it's crucial to understand Seth's idea isn't mysticism, not really. It's grounded in biology. Consciousness for him is basically the brain's best guess. Its best guess about what's happening inside and outside the body and the driving force, staying alive. He makes a smart move, shifting focus, away from the old philosophical hard problem.
The whole why do we feel things at all question.
Exactly that, to what he terms the real problem, which is much more about, well, mapping, explaining, predicting, controlling conscious states through brain stuff we can actually observe.
Okay, so if the brain is always making this best guess, how does it actually do that? How does it build this controlled hallucination?
Well, it comes down to something called predictive processing. It's key. Don't think of your brain as just passively receiving signals. It's not like a camera just recording. It's active. It's always generating predictions, hypotheses about what's causing its sensory input, what it expects to see or hear or feel.
Ah, okay, so it's guessing ahead.
Right. And then the actual sensory data that comes in, that's used to check and update the predictions. It's this constant cycle. Predict, check, correct the error, predict again. A dynamic loop.
That makes a lot of sense. Almost like our brains running little experiments constantly. And Seth lays out this unified framework, right, with 3 dimensions.
Yes, exactly. It helps organize the idea. First, there's the level of consciousness.
Level. Simply how conscious you are.
Yeah, simple as that. Ranges from deep sleep, no dreams, all the way to fully awake, alert. It's about your overall state. Think about anesthesia versus being wide awake right now. Very different levels. And that level kind of sets the stage for everything else.
Okay, so you have the level, the basic wakefulness. Then building on that is the content.
Right, the content. This is what you're conscious of. And this is where the controlled hallucination idea really comes alive. It's the redness of red, the sound of my voice, maybe the feeling of the air temperature, your thoughts, memories, all of it. The brain isn't just relaying raw data. It's interpreting.
Based on its predictions.
Exactly, based on predictions and past experience. Think of an optical illusion. The input is ambiguous, right? Your brain makes its best guess, creates a perception. That perception is the content. It's constructed.
Which leads us to the 3rd dimension, maybe the most mind-bending one, the self.
Our sense of being us.
Yeah, that deep feeling of who I am, how does that fit the predictive model?
This is really fascinating stuff. Yeah. Because the self, our identity, it's not some fixed core entity. Seth argues it's another prediction, maybe the brain's most fundamental prediction. It's constantly predicting and regulating our own body, our internal state. So the self is a collection of predictions about our body, emotions, memories, our social standing.
So when I feel anxious, that's a prediction.
In this view, yes. A prediction your brain is making about your internal state, maybe anticipating a threat. It's a bodily feeling, an experience, constructed from these predictions. And this ongoing prediction of self helps us navigate the world, helps us survive.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this up a bit. What does this all really mean for us? We've gone through this powerful idea, minds not as passive receivers, but active predictors, builders of reality, and even our own self.
Well, the implications are pretty wide-ranging. It's a biologically grounded theory, it's testable, and it offers real insights, maybe even for clinical settings.
Yeah.
Think about mental health. If the brain's job is prediction, what happens when predictions go wrong? Mispredictions.
Like anxiety being an overprediction of threat.
Precisely. Or potentially other conditions, too, where the best guess is somehow skewed. But beyond the clinical on a bigger scale, it just fundamentally asks us to think critically, to question how we perceive everything. The world, yes, but also ourselves, which leads to a pretty big question.
Okay, leave us with this. If our reality and even our very sense of self are these elaborate, controlled hallucinations built for survival, what does that realization actually open up? What new possibilities might exist for understanding our inner worlds? And maybe, how much real agency do we have within that constructed experience? Something for you to mull over.